Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Take Up Space podcast. I hope you all are well. We are still in Dubai and we have been fully sending the guests. I tell you that. We have got another 2 weapons on the podcast today, and I am really, really excited for this one because Mr. and Mrs. Raw are like 2 people that I extremely look up to in the industry to an extent as well, because they are 2 people that are very, very relentless to bodybuilding. And they're 2 people that are incredible coaches, and they actually give a shit about their clients, and they have got a lot of the same values as what I do. So I've been wanting to get them on the podcast for quite some time. So I'm very excited to dive in a little bit deeper. Like, this is the first time we've actually had a couple on the podcast as well. And I know that a lot of people have questions about relationships when it comes to bodybuilding, actually going through a prep. Like, how do you guys manage a relationship when you're trying to be your best and succeed as both a coach and an athlete at the same time? So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you for having us.
That was a hell of an introduction,
It's a nice
wasn't it?
intro,
I love
that.
that. Mads is going to come through with, we sleep in separate bedrooms and don't speak to each other for the entire 20 weeks.
Do you actually?
No.
we don't.
But it's a good point to bring up at this moment in time, because we've literally just had a conversation about this, maybe when I came off prep 9-10 weeks ago, because we spent the last 2 years in totally separate phases. So I was in prep, Corey was in an off season or health phase, and then I was in an off season, he was in prep, and then he was in off season, I was in prep, literally since January 2022. Yeah. That is a long time. I think we had 6 weeks that overlapped where we could have an off-plan meal each week together for 6 weeks. In 2 years, that's a long, long time. And I don't think you realise until you get to the end of that nearly 2-year period and you're like, wow, that's actually not good.
Yeah. But you guys have been together for 4 or 5 years, is it?
Three.
3
and a half.
years.
It seems longer because I've got less hair and and she's got bigger bags under her eyes. But yeah, we moved quick. We found love in each other through the love of just progression. Genuinely, I was so obsessed with Mads when we first got together because she was just so hungry to be good and better.
Yeah.
And you can't not want to be around that energy. So when I first met her in the gym, obviously, I literally just stared at her for about 4 months until I plucked up the bollocks to actually speak to her.
Stalked me.
Stalked her, knew where she lived, knew what underwear she was wearing that day. So I was just like, right, it's a red day, we are on. Action. Got stuck straight in. But from there on in, it's for people who have opposite sides in relationships and one person bodybuilds and one person doesn't, the perspective is so difficult to understand. We've been on both sides of the spectrum, and it can be super, super intense. And even for educated coaches as well as very, very experienced athletes, managing your emotions during that time is so fucking difficult. So difficult because you don't really care. Yeah. When you're in prep, right? We know everything is about getting the job done. Yeah. Everything is passed to the wayside, whether you're a pro going for a pro debut or shooting for the O qualification or you're shooting for a pro card. Even if it's your first show, eventually you come to a realization that nothing can slip. Everything counts, every single second. And unfortunately, that sometimes means you've got to sacrifice the reality of your relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think I think it's very different when you're with somebody who is a bodybuilder and with somebody who isn't. I think obviously for us, we both do this together, but when you're in opposite phases, it kind of doesn't matter that you both do this, because even though, say, me being in prep and Corey not, he can relate to me being mission essential, we call it, mission essential. Mm-hmm. Everything you do on a daily basis is to get the job done. Yeah. Whether that's the cardio you got to do, whether that's weighing your food, whether that's getting up at a certain time, because as a coach as well, you've got check-ins to do and then you need to be at gym at a certain time. That's your mission essential in prep, and you tick all these boxes until you go to sleep. Your other half understands that if they're a bodybuilder as well. But when they're not in the trenches at the same time, I think they find it hard to have the perspective on that as well sometimes. So
100%.
I could be in the depths of prep and Corey can understand that I'm there, but he's like, well, what about me? And that it doesn't, I think people think, oh, you do it together, so it's easy. But I don't think it is. I think if you're not in the same phases at the same time, actually it's kind of irrelevant whether the other person's a bodybuilder or not, because they're not going through what you're going through at that moment in time.
You're quick to forget, right? Like your position at this very moment in time on your journey as an athlete. Do you remember exactly what it felt like to be in the depths and bottom of the barrel? Yes. Do you remember the pain? No, not really. So it doesn't really fucking matter. You're just like, okay. And it comes down to that point of like sacrifice and being the best person you can be. And that really is all it comes down to. So we put ourselves in a position where it's just like, well, do you know what? Although you can have, and I think that's the hardest thing, because there's no respite for either of us. It's like when I'm in prep, Mads isn't going to order 30 rolls of sushi and sit there and eat it on her own because she respects my journey. Although she might want to.
I'll wait until he goes out.
100%. Be like, Corey, have you got 30,000 steps you still need to do? Brilliant. See you in 3 hours. If you even make it back, or pick me up halfway through because I'll be on the floor. And same vice versa. So when I come out of competing, Mads is literally getting into the hurt locker at that period of time. Certainly this year, and I'm like, I could eat the world, but I can't. And you question, do you have to be more selfish, or do you be like more supportive? And this was a really, really difficult thing to manage. Plus your own emotions. Yeah. Right. Like.
I think when you're in, if you've got those two roles, like bodybuilder and non-bodybuilder, and both bodybuilders, in the scenario where we've been opposite phases, I think there can be a little bit of resentment of the person in the off season because they can't do the things maybe they want to do because they feel bad on the other person. Yeah. Or I can't go out and have too much of a good time because the other person will feel like, oh, I don't like you for being able to have a good time. Even though it's their choice to be in prep. Yeah. Yep. Like, you shouldn't resent somebody for sitting next to you eating a burger and chips while you're on prep. It's your choice, right? But you feel bad. You still feel bad. So I guess, like that, all that time, I think there's a balance to be had of doing the things what you want to do yourself, so you don't resent your off season as well. And you come around to prep thinking, oh God, I didn't have a nice time. I didn't go out when I should have gone out. I didn't go on holiday when I should have gone on holiday. But in a relationship, you have to support the other person. So yeah, I mean, we vouch now to not do opposite phases. Like that's how we've dealt with that. It's saying, going forward, we do the same thing at the same time.
So if you guys ever prepped together?
We did, and then Mads ruptured her sartorius tendons about 10 weeks out.
Yeah. So we didn't do like the proper prep bit.
No.
I did like the first bit of chunky fat loss, which was easy. I took 10 kilos off, but no, not like proper prep. Not proper prep together.
So what?
And who knows, that might be worse. Like we've not done that yet.
I was a way to say, because imagine both of you guys in that trend. To be honest, I think it would actually be better though. Rather than doing opposites, especially for a 2-year period. Like 2 years when one of you guys' libidos are going to be at fucking rock bottom. It's hard. Yeah. But like you guys, so the start of your relationship then, was you like quote unquote normal, or was you like relentless like what you are now? Because when I look at you guys, the reason why I respect you guys so much is because you're so consistent with your routine. You train with true intent. Like, you bodybuild for the reason that you guys both love the fucking process, which is the most important thing. Yeah. And you don't take your foot off the gas in your off season. But when you guys started, was you like the way that you are?
It was just before the first lockdown, so it was really difficult because we started seeing each other, but it was pretty much lockdown. So we were training in LRF in Kent. We were able to get in.
Cut that.
Sneaking down at like 5 o'clock in the morning. But
that was intense.
So we weren't able to go out and do normal things anyway. And I was prepping for, do you remember the
First
Two Bros British finals where there was no regionals all year and then just the British finals?
Yes.
For that show?
Was it Watford?
At Pump House in Watford.
Yeah.
So I was prepping for that show, and in lockdown, because there was no opportunity to really go out, you couldn't really eat, you couldn't do anything, I just prepped through that lockdown. So our relationship started off with me basically in prep. Yeah. And then I think, I mean, you just joined Cuba, I think, at that point, and you were just eating and just getting big after being slightly malnourished and coming over like an illness. But yeah, we were still, I think we were very bodybuilding from day one, because we were in lockdown, there wasn't really much opportunity to do any normal stuff as a relationship. So yeah, we were still kind of opposite, but you were super intent with everything you did anyway. So you weren't very good at eating off plan and that sort of stuff.
It was at that time that I think I was really starting to find myself as an athlete, like really starting to realise that every single second counts. So at that period of time, I was like, unless I'm told to do something, I won't do it. Like point blank. Very, very different now. I still have the same ideology, ethics and philosophy around physique development, but then it was just like, I can't possibly breathe left if right means that I can make more progress. So at that period of time, it was actually really good, because Mads really started to excel as an athlete, like overnight. She's so good, and same thing as you said, does not miss a beat. Like that, the girl does not miss. Woman, she doesn't miss. So when she started to realize like how fast she was progressing, she then excelled at ridiculous rates. And we had a period of time where I think we pushed you up to like, because I was coaching at the time, which was really, really fun, because I was just like, cheat meal, offline. And Mads went full potato mode, and at that time I was full potato mode as well. So we had a really, really good introduction coming off like just sheer focus and intent of just like getting really, really good. And then it all went downhill.
Yeah, I think that first element of your bodybuilding journey as well, I think people concentrate too much on the small specifics. Like Corey spoke to me there about being a bit of a potato, and I was. But all I did for about a year, and even though at the time I'd just come off bikini, I wasn't quite sure what category I wanted to do, I just did like a push-pull leg split for like a year and just ate. And now people will join a coach like, I want to do bikini. Okay, well, here's your little bikini split. Do this. We won't put on too much weight. And although you need to be controlled, I do think that there is an element in the first bit of your bodybuilding journey where you just need to get after it and build a solid foundation of muscle.
100%.
And that was what I did in that period of time, like off the back of lockdown. And just ate well, in a surplus, and trained push-pull legs and just developed muscle everywhere. And I think so many people miss that at the start of their journey.
But it's because too many coaches nowadays are afraid that their clients are going to get too fat. And I think every single incredible athlete has been through periods of time where they have ate everything underneath the sun. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but if you want to build a serious amount of tissue, you've got to get to you should be a potato by the end of your improvement season, whether you get there the right way by eating clean foods, but being consistent eating a lot of foods. And I think that's a bit that a lot of people do actually miss, 100%. And why people go on stage looking the same after every year.
I think what people struggle to realize is they're going to have to get hungry anyway. They can stay 5 kilos above their stage weight and they can stay in condition. But the reality is they are going to have to get bottom of the barrel. They are going to have to eat fuck all food, and they are going to have to suffer. So it doesn't matter. All they're doing is preventing themselves from actually growing muscle tissue, because they don't come far enough away to even be in an optimal position to grow. Like, you need to get strong. You're not getting strong by being 5 kilos above your stage weight. You're not getting into a position where you can optimally grow tissue. So it's a complete waste. And then they look back over the 3 years of their bodybuilding, they're like, I've made zero progress. Why? Because you've been so scared of the hard work that you have to do anyway. You're just holding yourself back.
I think it's different when you get further on in your journey. Like now, like it's a little bit more clamped down. Same for you. Like, we don't need to get 20 kilos above our stage weight, especially when you've not got to get into the condition that you need to as a pro, or trying to get a pro card in figure. Like, you need to be conditioned. You don't need to get that far. But I think, as a bit of a lesson for new athletes, like, allow yourself to spend some time like just eating and growing, and like that solid foundation muscle. And that was 100%. What we did for the first year, and didn't worry too much about the specifics. And then went into preps and off seasons, and now here we are 2 years later.
So have you always had that like mentality as well, or would you say like Corey's made you like that? Because it's the same with like Meg and Cuba. When I spoke to them about it, like Cuba, like Meg obviously had like her sporting background that helped Cuba with the consistency side. But he, with his background, it was him that kind of like pushed like the mentality that you've got to show up every single day. Like, I think you guys collab like pretty, like, I think you guys are pretty similar,
Yeah.
if I'm being 100% honest. But have you always been like that as well? Or have you, like, grown up with, like, a sporting background? Because, as Corey said, you're fucking dense. Like, even as a bikini athlete, you still had a decent amount of muscle.
Yeah, I like started my bodybuilding journey going into prep. Like I didn't do any off season before. I played football like semi-pro since I was like, well, I started football when I was like 7 until my knees gave up and I was like, I can't do this anymore, so I'm just going to bodybuild instead. Got into the gym and I'd always trained, like I think any sporting professional, whatever. I know Meg was a diver, like I'm sure she was in the gym. Corey was a rugby, he was in the gym. Like you still have a good amount of tissue and you never diet when you're like that because you just need to be fit and strong all the time. So I just went into a prep, my first ever prep, and this is not how I recommend anyone starts bodybuilding, just straight into a prep, by the way. But if you come from that background, you've probably got a lot of tissue. I've had girls come to me that have got sporting backgrounds. You can see they've got a lot of tissue, and you're like, yeah, you could compete within the year because you've got the tissue. So like, I had quite a lot of tissue. Yeah, I competed in bikini, and I was like, this isn't really the category for me, like straight away. Doesn't mean that I was too big for it. Could I go away and refine? Yes, but it takes the joy out of training for me. Like, I love training. And this doesn't mean that bikini girls don't have a lot of muscle. They do, but their training is different. If you want to stay within a bikini category, you need to train in a way that is suited for the category. And you can't get, quote unquote, too big. I love training. Like, I love training heavy. I love squatting. I love deadlifting. I love doing these things. So for me, I didn't want my... like a category choice to refine, like be the reason why I went in the gym.
Yeah.
I want the reason why I go into the gym to be because I love what I'm doing in the gym.
Yeah.
Because that's 95% of what you do, right? Stage isn't even 5%. It's like 0.5%, right? If you do it every year. So for me, it was the gym that drove me to be like, this is what I'm doing each day, and whichever category I then fall into is where I fall. So yeah, my intent's always been there. Like I went to university, I was a footballer. Like I think if you come from a sporting background, that is driven into you anyway. Like you turn up for training, you turn up for a game, you're prepared, your kit's washed. I think when you've been in a sporting background, you're very, very, very relentless anyway. So I think you understand what it takes to get to the top. Yeah. Like when I played football, it was relentless. Like there was girls coming in who were 15 who were already better than me. I was like, okay, I have to step it up again. Like you have to do that to be able to be good. And I think that just transfers into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So it's a mental aptitude question. Like Mads just had the ability to just switch on and switch off.
Yeah.
Understand what her needs were every single day. A non-negotiable task, she just ticked them. If that meant she had to, like she was a contracts manager in civil engineering. She wasn't a bodybuilder, and she had to be on site at 7:00. So she was at the gym at 5. Did an hour of hit on the stairs. And like this is non-optimal approach to prepping now. Like you're talking like 3-4 years ago where it was literally just, to be fair, which still applies today, eat nothing and do a lot.
Yeah.
But she didn't miss. Her mental aptitude and her mental ability to be able to apply herself every single day just materialised results. What foods do you like, Mads? I'm happy with oats. All right, what meat source do you want? What protein source do you want? Well, I can't have any protein. Back then there wasn't like vegan and beef proteins really available. So she had chicken and oats. You give chicken and oats to a client today, they'll leave.
Yeah.
Straight up. Oh my God, you're not the coach for me, unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to move on. Like, so I think that's something, to be honest, you either have or you don't.
Yeah.
You're having this conversation with Hader, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
It's so true, yeah.
You literally you can't force an athlete to be great. All you can do is give them the opportunity to really excel, guide them, try and help and support in any way you can. But you cannot make this life any easier. Yeah. It is just what it is, and you either love it or you fucking hate it. And if you hate it, don't do it because you won't be successful.
And do you think you can teach that mentality?
No.
There's only so much you can do with that. Like there's only so much times you can tell someone what time, how to go, like how to have a morning routine, how to have an evening routine, go to the gym at the same time every single day, drink your water, take your supplements. People think that bodybuilding's freaking rocket science, where a lot of people overcomplicate it. And yeah, there might be a million ways to skin a cat, but if you look at all the people that get absolutely peeled, they've all got the exact same approaches.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Every coach at the top, if you talk to them, they're doing the exact same things.
Yes.
There's a massive conversation now about, I mean, it was the Olympia last weekend, right? what are these guys doing? Do you think they are really doing anything that you're doing? No, they're not. So why the fuck aren't you doing it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Have we missed something? Like, success leaves clues.
Yeah.
There's no overcomplication there. Hanny was in the dungeon a couple of weeks ago giving a seminar talking about his approach. Most of the guys there were like, hold on a minute, what you mean you don't measure salt over every single meal? Like, or you mean you don't measure your water to the mill when you're in off season, and Chris Bumstead doesn't do 10 sergeants when he gets out of bed because it increases his metabolic rate by 15% for the day. Like what, you don't do that. He's just like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's why you look like you do.
Yeah.
Victor Black said to one of the guys at a seminar that we were at, he was just like, with all due respect, young man, you are not a bodybuilder. How old are you? He's like, I'm 26. He said, you look about 15. Like, you don't need to be worrying about pink dumbbell, pinky finger, all that bullshit. What you need to do is eat some fucking calories and get under a bar.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do that for the next 4 years. Have a look in the mirror. Do you think you've got the genetic potential and capabilities to be a great bodybuilder? No. Do something else.
Yeah.
Don't waste time.
And although we're like that, would you have that mentality with a client as well?
No, because I wouldn't have any business.
So true.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
so true.
We are here to manage emotion, expectation, and do the best with the individuals that we are fortunate enough to work with. I'm very, very grateful. We're grateful as individuals. That's something that I know we carry as a common thought. But we are also in a very, very difficult position where when everyone is talking about optimal results and just winning, I prepped for my first bodybuilding show in like a week. I just went there. I didn't even have a tan on. I just turned up. I had zero expectations. I didn't go to that show, my first ever bodybuilding show, thinking that I was going to win the overall, and all of a sudden my life was going to change. I was going to be sponsored by a supplement company. I was going to get 50 grand a year, and I was going to be able to be a bodybuilder for the rest of my life. I literally was just like, I'm pretty fucking wham. I'm in relatively good shape. I might give this a go. And I was like, wow, I could probably be quite good at this. And I actually really enjoyed it. So I'm going to do it again. It was never a thing of people want to try and make this a life.
Yeah.
Bodybuilder. I want to be a bodybuilder. Well, what does that fucking mean? What, you want to be paid, sit at home, sleep? And, all right,
Yeah, we don't make any money out of this, guys. Like, literally, we don't.
Straight up.
Being a bodybuilder doesn't make you any money.
Yeah.
I think it does give us, one thing I'd say it does give us as coaches and bodybuilders, I think they go really well hand in hand. Like,
exactly.
If you're a bodybuilder, you have to be, I think people who are successful at their job tend to be successful at the sport that they do, tend to be successful in their relationships, tend to be successful at life, because
100%.
I think that although we're talking about this mentality, you can't teach the mentality, I don't think. I think you can educate, you can coach people into a way of getting things done and be more optimal and things that you can do. How to get your steps in, do some steps on the treadmill before you train and after. Yeah. Well, that's helpful. But actually being a good bodybuilder or a good athlete, I think, is a mentality that goes through everything else. So you need a routine to be able to do your cardio and prep and do your gym and eat your food and take your supplements. That then goes into everything else you do in life. Like, it makes you a better coach because your structure to your day is there. If you're not a coach and you have a different type of job, it gives you structure to the job that you do. Like, everything I think in life is better and falls in line when you have the structure that bodybuilding gives you. And that doesn't mean that everybody needs to be a bodybuilder, but what it means is it can actually give you so many good things in life that actually help you in other areas. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah. But you've got to want it from, like,
Deep
within as well.
100%.
I think too many people coming into this sport now, they're looking at Instagram and they're wanting that instant gratification.
100%.
Like, I've had probably 10 clients leave me because I wouldn't prep them for that, for their first show. Because I'm like, you need a whole year growing, baby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that you guys are a prime example of this as well, because you've had your last competing season was absolutely freaking mental.
Absurd.
Like, no, but it was insane. Like, seeing you just pick back up after every single one of that shows, and you're like, I'm going again. But how did you guys deal with that? Because when you want something enough, like, it's hard when you don't get that win. Yeah. And like, you guys are obviously in it together. Like, you've got a business together. Like, how do you, like, keep going.
I think there's two things this, and Corey will give his side. I think as a, like, now reflection on the season that Corey had, I think as a learning point for anyone and for us and other people chasing pro cards is choose your shows, choose your season, do them, give yourself the opportunity and call it a day where you say you're going to call it a day. Yeah. Because and this isn't because like you might get disheartened if you just keep going and keep going and keep going. At one point, one day, it'll be your show. But give yourself the run, say I'm going to do these 3 or these 4 or whatever it is, and then leave it there, because I think for mental sanity, you have to do that. Because I think you can go down a road where you chase something so much that you become so fixated on something that when it doesn't happen, it becomes like all of you. Yeah. So it's like, if I don't achieve this thing, what am I? And you've become so fixated on this one thing that you go again and again and again. And when it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. What does that do to your mental state? And it's not everything. It's not everything. There's more to life than like winning a pro card or being a good pro.
Whoa.
But there is.
Whoa.
But there is. And it's important for people to understand that. I think people put so much heavy heart on these things, and there's so much more to life to also enjoy. So you can do both, but you need to have, in my opinion, like chapters to this, and choose your chapter and then move on to your next one.
I do agree. I don't dare disagree. I think there's a thing of, yes, 100%. There has to be strategy, and you have to understand that the stage isn't going anywhere. There's always going to be another show, and that's the hardest thing. When you set off to actually reach the top of this sport, you can't not believe anything other than the fact that you are capable of doing it. Yeah. I said every single day, I am enough. I'm going to do this. I'm going to win my fucking pro card. And when it didn't happen, I was like, am I lying to myself? Have I been lying to myself? Or am I going to see through with the commitment that I've made? That was the biggest thing. Giving up on the reality of, or admitting that it wasn't going to happen. Yeah. It was really hard. And I think like I've got an incredible person around me. Like if it wasn't for my, I'm going to fucking cry.
I know. I felt emotional watching I actually was emotional watching the YouTube. I think it was the last show that you did.
The Alicante one.
Before you got ill. Yeah. I see the start of that. I've got goosebumps even thinking about it just now. Yeah. It was so emotional. And it was heartbreaking. Yeah. You not getting that.
It's the thing is, like, and what people forget, this sport
I'm going to start crying as well. Woo!
This sport does so much for people that potentially they don't even realise. It's been with me. Bodybuilding's been with me for longer than I even want to mention, and through the highs and the lows, and I genuinely thought that for all that I'd struggled with throughout my life, and the fact that it's been there, it was going to be worth it. Do you know what I mean? And the reality is, just being the best me is worth it. But I put so much on that pro card because that was success. Yeah. That was like the pinnacle. The reality is, there's always going to be something else, and if you allow the first place or the pro card to define you, what happens when you don't get it? Are you still a bodybuilder, or are you going to quit? Are you going to roll over? And what I found was, every time I stepped off that fucking stage and they called the wrong number, I was like, right, we're back to clearance tomorrow. What's the next show? Yeah. So I didn't give up. So it doesn't actually define me. It's fucking irrelevant, because I love this sport for everything that it is, not for the rewards that I get from it and validation I get from my first place or a pro card. Yeah. And that was the big turning point for me. And this year's given me more perspective for myself, for my relationship, for the people that are around me, for my clients, for everything, how I do that. Because it just doesn't have to be the be all and end all for you to actually be able to progress in the way that you want to. And the reality is, if you keep turning up anyway, it will just fucking happen.
If you've got that mentality, it's going to happen regardless.
At some point,
but
yeah.
it's like about like you're in my opinion, like one of the hardest classes to actually
100%.
see that show. What show was it? Was it the Alicante show? And I was like,
Alicante,
yeah.
40.
Yeah.
I was like,
42
what
guys,
on earth is going on?
And do you know what? Like, I was backstage then, genuinely looking at every single athlete, and I was just like, I fucking got this.
Yeah.
Like, this is done. And I walked out, and they went, anyway. And I was just like,
I think they're bored.
hello?
They've got like 80 classic athletes to look at. Like, how do you even do that? It's like the bikini athletes or some of these shows. I'm like, how do you even judge that? Because you're in a novice class and you turn up at 2 Bros and there's 40 of them, and you're like, how do you even judge that? How do you even look at everybody? So and that was the amateur, and I think people think, oh, when you go to an amateur Olympia, there's 3 pro cards, you've got more of a chance of winning. No, you've got less because there's 10 times the athletes.
Don't go. So
if you actually work that out and do some maths with probability, you've got less chance of winning than you have if you go to a normal show.
Yeah.
Like, avoid. Like, you haven't got more chance of winning. I think that one thing that came out of that, the whole season this year, is a learning point, and I think something to take away is that if you truly love this sport and love what you do on a day-to-day basis anyway, whether you win or you come last, will you get up and do the same thing every day anyway? Will you get up and do your cardio? Will you get up and prep your meals? Will you get up and go to the gym? I know if I came last in every single class, I would still get up the next day and do the same thing, because I love the process and I love what I do and I love the journey. Yeah. Whereas if some people don't win and they don't get that first place and they don't get that validation and they don't think they're good enough, they'll just stop. And that says to me that you don't love the journey, you're just doing it to win. Yeah. Like, if you actually love the process and you love doing what you do every single day, whether you win or not is regardless. It doesn't matter. Like, for me, honestly, genuinely, would I like a pro card? Yeah, of course I would. If I don't get one, do I care? Absolutely not. I genuinely don't care. I don't care. I love the process. I love bodybuilding. I love growing. I enjoy prep. Once I'm lean in prep, I get to a point where I'm like, I'm bored. I've completed it. I've completed it. I've got lean. I've done the process. I've got lean. I'm peeled now. I'm peeled now. I'm bored. What am I doing? Am I doing a show? All right, I'll do a show next week. I'll do one the week after. Am I winning? Or do I need to grow? All right, I'll go and grow. I've completed it. I've got lean because it's the process of, genuinely, I'm like, I'm lean now, bored, and I want to go and grow. And I think it's because I just like the linear up, down, like doing the whole thing, and not really the outcome. And the outcome I know will come if I'm good enough, and if I'm not, I'll do the process anyway.
How did you find like the process of, because like you did 2 completely different classes within one season, and see, as soon as you, oh my god,
it was awesome.
What the fuck?
I swear down.
As soon as you did that figure shots, I was like, why have you been hiding that for so long?
Thank you.
Corey went to figure like 18 months ago.
Me.
Mental. But then I seen on your Instagram story that you're potentially thinking about doing WPD.
Yeah.
That's my favourite class of all time.
100%.
I think, again, it comes down to the process, right? Like, I did bikini. I will have done every fucking category at this rate. I did bikini and obviously went away and grew. Genuinely thought that wellness was probably where I needed to go. I'd always had like bigger legs. When I was younger, were they fatter? Yes, like a lot of amateurs are, like, they were fatter. But in the shots, like, your glutes look great, shape's good, like, and then over this last year, I'd probably say, as I've been a mature athlete, and I think sometimes it's really hard to pick your category when you're an immature athlete. When you're young and you're an amateur, I think looking at a shape, even if you get in every pose, you don't really understand how your body's going to develop. You don't know where you grow more. You don't know which part of your body responds more. And I think I've, over the last year, was very much finding my feet with that. Yeah. Okay. So I was training upper body as like a maintenance session once a week, training legs 4 times a week. My upper body grew more than my legs. Like, I trained it once a week.
Ridiculous.
So got to the end of that, and I haven't shared them on Instagram yet, but I took some shots about 6 weeks out from my first show and was in the posing room at Benoos. And I just hit some figure shots and sent them to Cal, and he was like, oh, okay then. I was like, well, I feel like we should run it. Like, we should give it a go. Obviously, we were running for wellness, so he was like, we'll do that. We'll do both because we'll see where we fit. But straight away, it was like we need to roll with that, you know? So I think for me, it was super exciting. I was super nervous, but I would, like, my encouragement for people would just be to explore things a little bit. Don't be siloed into where you think you fit. I really want to be a bikini girl, but are you actually bikini? let the reins off, do what your body wants
Yeah.
to do. And I think sometimes you have to go with where your body wants to go, not where you want to go. And that doesn't mean do something you don't enjoy, but you will always be more successful at something that you're naturally better at. Or you just will be. So allow your body to do that. And I'm enjoying the process. Like, will I do WPD? Maybe. Will I do figure?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes, you will.
I think my shape is more...
5 it my way.
If my shape is more WPD, I think, because I'm like shorter and denser. Dense, like I have the X frame, like I'm dense through the legs. Like I don't think I've got the figure look.
Yeah.
Personally.
Call it the lollipop.
Don't have the lollipop look. I don't have the figure look. That's what I call it. But
The lollipop look.
like
There's
just
all respect, like
the dense width to the upper body with like the more narrowness through the hips. Like I think that shape. Like I look at figure pros and I think, would I fit that? And I think my shape is probably more WPD, but that just means that I would have to go away and do some real growing. But I like the process.
Yeah.
So do you know what? I'll just grow and I'll just prep and I'll see, and where I fit. Like I'll just continue with the process. I'm not going to get too fixated on like where I want to end up, which I think it makes me be able to enjoy it more because I can just go in the gym and just train.
100%, because you're not putting any pressure on yourself. Like it's the same with everything though. Like the more pressure on yourself, the more you actually dislike what you're doing.
100%.
Like you chasing your pro card, because you put so much pressure on trying to get that pro card, or if you stayed in wellness, you're putting all this pressure on to try and fit into a class or to get that placing that you want. You end up completely resenting what you're actually doing. But how do you guys deal with it together then? Because like obviously you had the stress of changing through different shows in one season, and then obviously when Mads was prepping, you had just came out of your hardest prep probably in your life.
Yep.
Like how was that?
Fucking nightmare.
Do you know what?
Silence.
This is gonna sound. I don't want this to
ding.
sound like a bit of an arsehole thing to say. I find it really easy. I find prep easy. I find the process quite easy. I find getting lean easy. I wasn't really phased by doing another category. I learned the poses within a couple of weeks and I just cracked on with it. But I think that because I'm able to do that and I just get my head down and I just crack on, I don't really need external emotional support through prep. That was a good thing because Corey was coming out the back of that season, which actually like mentally really affected him. So it was, I think if it was maybe somebody else or I really needed that emotional support through the back end of prep, it would have been really challenging. But I was able to just do what I needed to do on a daily basis without needing that lean on, which meant he was able to like express himself a little bit more. Otherwise, I think it would have been really difficult. Really difficult.
Yeah, I think it was as much of a smoother transition as it could have been. Like,
that's good.
One of the greatest things about our relationship is like I am Mads's biggest fan. Like point blank, when I've been calling the figure card for years. Like I wanted her to do it. I believe that she can do it. The reason why I didn't want her to do, and I expressed my thoughts on not doing bikini is because I thought it would just suppress her as an athlete and her ability to really grow. That ceiling would absolutely kill her. Now, I knew that there was going to be an enormous amount of space for her to develop as an athlete in figure. So when the decision started to be made, like I don't think I've ever been so excited to come backstage after she walked off doing wellness, and I was just like, here's 400 grams of salt, here's a set of bands, do some lateral raises, let's fucking go. And she did, and she came out, and you're right, like she hit that first post, no word of a lie, I just screamed. The entire audience just turned around and looked at me. I was there with the camera like, yeah,
love that.
Because I was just like that is you. And if WPD turns out to be the reality of where she's going, fine. But it doesn't really matter. But I know that a more athletic, more balanced, heavily dense muscle look on Mads is Mads. Point blank. And she's got it.
Do you think that personalities like fit categories? Like, do you think that you can look at someone and be like,
you're bikini.
like you're a bikini girl.
I think so, yeah.
You're a figure
you're a
girl.
Mel.
Do you know what I mean? You're a wellness girl. Do you think that that's a thing? Like a few people said to me, I had a conversation with China. Me and China had a really good conversation, and she was like, when I saw that, I was like, that's your personality, that's you.
100%.
Like, I think that people do have that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But as soon as you got into that poses, I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Where have you been hiding?
Yeah.
Annoying, really. Imagine how much muscle I'd have if I
One
trained up
lat
over
pull
the last
down
year.
and one fucking lateral raise a week. Absolutely.
One lateral raise a week, yeah.
So you're
Really
both going to be getting that pro card next year?
We'll see.
I'm taking
Corey's
the
never standing on
entirety
stage again.
of the rest of my life off. To bring the best physique and the best you need to be able to diet down, and when you are peeled, stand on stage.
Yeah.
If that for me is classic, because I'll be within the weight cap, fine. I will not be withering myself away to fit into a box.
Yeah.
That doesn't benefit me. I've always prided myself on like having a bit of density. I'm a thick, fat rugby boy. Like, that's me. Short shorts, flip flops, 36-inch waist. Like, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I had a thigh gap like Paris Hilton on stage. I swear down, turn to the back, like I am just lats. I'm just lats at this point, and like, I won't do that again.
It's true.
Because it's not the best representation
Yeah.
of me. It's a fucking waste. So I'll cut that. I'll take the entirety of next year off.
Bodybuilders fat off thigh gaps.
And when I've forgotten how much prep ruined me mentally, and I'm hungry to get back into the fucking trenches and into the hurt locker, I'll diet down when I'm peeled. If that means I'm 98 kilos and I'm a fucking shit hot heavyweight bodybuilder, I'll do that. But I won't be ripping 5-6 kilos of body weight off me, because when you're
Yeah.
peeled,
Yeah.
the classic cap crushes physiques.
But it's mental,
Corey
the
was
difference
peeled
from the
5
cap.
kilos above the cap.
Yeah,
you know
the
what I mean?
cap from
And it's
like amateur to pro is
Massive.
oh, it's absurd.
a joke.
Yeah. 10 kilos for me.
10 kilos?
At that point, yeah. Especially with the new cap coming in. So I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, it's no longer a fat loss game, it's a weight loss game. You can't
Already peeled and you still got to lose 6 kilos.
you can't focus where you're taking that weight off. So whatever is the, I don't know, weakest developed muscle group on your body, like, that's going to deteriorate first. So you are literally just rotting and wasting away, and that is never that also isn't going to be solved and fixed with 8 hours worth of carbon up.
Yeah.
So
And it also is, especially with your circumstances as well,
Yeah.
like doing that from a health perspective.
Yeah. I was very quick to forget about all of the realities and hurdles that I needed to consider, because I was just too fucking hungry, and that wasn't even from a food perspective. I just wanted that pro card. But yeah,
I think that
it's,
as a like a bit of a lasting thing there with prep and like asking when you're going to prep again, I think that for anybody, like you can only prep when your like mind is in the right place to do it. I think everybody gets to a point in their off season, in their growth phase, in their maintenance phase, whatever they're in, where they have a switch and they're like, I'm ready to diet now. And I think you can only prep when that switch comes.
100%.
I don't think you can map it into a timeline and this is when we're going to do it, and that's great. But if you're not mentally ready, like if you told Corey to prep now, he'd run a mile. Like, he's not mentally ready.
Or
I think-
emotionally
I don't know.
stable.
Right, tell me about it.
But it comes.
Madge would be moving out, I swear down. Forget about the
Do it
spare
on your
bedroom,
own.
it's a spare house.
Literally.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. Emotionally, mentally,
Yeah.
you've got to be in a position where you want to do that. And if you're not, don't, because it won't
Yeah.
be successful. You'll hate the process. You'll fall out of love with bodybuilding, because if you don't want to prep at the beginning of your diet, you definitely won't want to do it halfway through your prep.
You'll
Yeah.
bring
So
the worst luck.
You want to be ready.
Yeah,
So I think that's important for people to understand. Like, don't do it because someone says you're ready. Like, make sure that you actually want to.
Yeah. And just don't do it just for Instagram. Like,
Don't
do
do
it
it for
because you're wanting to become your best. There's not a time limit to when you can go on stage. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Erin.
Mads and Corey.